Minister, you've come here today to the BBC instead of doing the interview at the site where you just were. Why is that?
Well, what I want to talk about today is what the government is making available to the victims of this absolutely horrendous tragedy. I think we were all, when we saw the horrific scenes of what had happened at Grenfell Tower, we all were deeply affected by that. It's absolutely horrifying. And I've been hearing stories today from people about their experiences. I've also been hearing from the local community about the issues and concerns that they have. Now, the government is making £5 million available for those emergency funds for people who need just to get money to be able to buy the normal things of everyday life. This morning I was in one of the hospitals meeting some of the victims there, and one of the women said to me, basically she ran out of this Grenfell Tower basically with a t-shirt and a pair of knickers. She has nothing. That's why the government is putting that funding in. There are other things we'll do as well to provide support for people, to ensure they're rehoused within 3 weeks. But immediately we need to ensure people have the help they need.
There is a need for the public to hear you say in words of one syllable, something terrible has happened, something has gone badly wrong, it is our fault. We acknowledge that and accept responsibility.
This has been, something terrible has happened. This is an absolutely awful fire that took place. People have lost their lives. People have had their homes destroyed. They have fled for their lives with absolutely nothing.
That's you misread the public mood on this one? You misread the anger that people feel about this? They shouted coward at you this afternoon when you left St Clement's.
What I have done since this incident took place is, first of all, yesterday, ensure that the public services had the support that they needed in order to be able to do the job they were doing in the immediate aftermath of this.
But that's 3 days on, Prime Minister. This is Friday evening. They needed those things in place on Wednesday. There were people we spoke to who were housed for one night, didn't know where they'd spend the next night, had no money to spend on food, and were not told anything by anyone. No one was in charge.
What I have done today is ensured that we are, as a government, putting that funding in place for people in the area. This has been an absolutely terrifying experience.
When did they get that funding? When are they told where they're going to be housed?
It has been a terrifying experience for people. This is why, when I heard stories yesterday from the emergency services about the issues around the fire. That's why I came straight back to Downing Street and I ordered a public inquiry. And we'll make sure that takes place as soon as possible to get to the bottom of this. But this is not just about finding out what happened. This is not just about finding out who was responsible for what happened. It's about ensuring that support is there, here and now.
But why wasn't it there in place? Any other tragedy, flooding, you would have had the army there, you would have had organisers. I was there on the ground, I saw the chaos for myself. There was no one in charge and there was nobody willing to accept responsibility.
We are ensuring that support is put in place for people. Now, that means that money should be made available, and we have to, one of the things I've just heard from people is about making sure that that money actually gets through to people. And that's a very real issue, because we have to, as government, make the money available. But I want to ensure that people actually get that money in their hands so they can go and buy the things that they need.
They're being rehoused outside the borough. They're being rehoused in places they don't know and don't live, don't have friends, don't have family.
We are committed to ensuring that people are rehoused as far as possible within the borough or in neighbouring boroughs. Some people may actually want to go to another part of London where perhaps they have a greater support network, where they have friends and relatives. We are ensuring that within 3 weeks people will be rehoused so they have a home to go to.
I ask you again, do you accept, though, that you misread the public mood, the level of anger? You didn't go and meet residents and they really resented that.
This was a terrible tragedy that took place. People have lost their lives and others have lost everything, all their possessions, their home and everything. What we are doing is putting in place the support that will help them. But it is a terrible tragedy. I have heard horrifying stories from the fire brigade, from the police and from the victims themselves who were in that tower, but also from other local residents, some of whom of course have not been able to go back to their homes either. What I'm now what I'm now absolutely focused on is ensuring that we get that support on the ground. As I say, government is making money available. We're ensuring that we're going to get to the bottom of what's happened. We will ensure that people are rehoused, but we need to make sure that that actually happens.
This was preventable, wasn't it? In 2013, a coroner had safety recommendations which included putting sprinklers in all these buildings, and it was never done. There were two types of material that could have been used in the cladding. One was flammable and one was fireproof, and the fireproof one cost £2 more. Was that not £2 worth spending?
Well, we have yet to find out what the cause of the fire was. The fire service are doing that.
You could have stopped it spreading by spending £2 more on the cladding.
The fire service are looking at what the cause of the fire was. And it's important that we get to the bottom of this, that we find out exactly what happened.
But you were recommended this in 2013. You were in government there, and a coroner said you can stop this with a sprinkler system in every block.
And the government has taken action on the recommendations of the coroner's report. But what we need to do in relation to this incident, to this horrifying fire, is to make sure that we get to the bottom of why this fire took place, what happened, why did it spread so unexpectedly and so ferociously and so quickly.
But we know that Gavin Barwell sat on a report from last October that he should have looked at. He knew about these recommendations then.
No, the government acted on recommendations from the coroner's report, but what we need to do is ensure that in relation to this fire, we do find out what caused the fire. Now, that will be done. The fire service will make a report. The fire service will look at what it was that immediately happened. But beyond that, the public inquiry will get to the wider issues of responsibility
Just in terms of reassuring, there are 4,000 other high-rise blocks. There are many, many residents tonight wondering what kind of precautions you're taking. When will you be able to tell them that they are safe when they go to sleep in their beds?
Well, the government is doing everything in its power to ensure that people are safe. We've identified those buildings, and over the weekend, now and over the weekend, people are going in and inspecting those buildings. We will do everything in our power to make sure that people are safe.
Does the culture have to change now? Does it have to be a culture where you start putting health and safety first instead of cutting corners?
What we need to do is to ensure that immediately people have the support that they need in order to deal with what is a horrific and terrible circumstance that people are in. We then also need to look at how this happened, why it happened, and what lessons need to be learnt. And if action needs to be taken, we will take it.
Prime Minister, thank you.
It doesn't matter what she talks about, because she's not going to be Prime Minister for very much longer.